Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Val.
And we are here starting out June. We are in the summer months. Summer movie season's in full swing.
How is it summer already?
I know.
Good grief.
Like 2020 took 7 years. 2021, like half of the year kind of dragged, and now like 2023, like it's like it hasn't even happened. It's just
right? It's crazy.
Bye. See you later.
I think part of it for me is I'm supposed to be getting ready to run a 10K in January, and that's looming. And so it's coming faster and faster for me and moving me along quicker. And I'm like, I'm running out of time.
Literally.
Yeah. So that's probably accelerating it for me a little bit. But
yeah. And if you want to help us raise money for us totally dying behind Tracy, you can go to our website and any of our Facebook pages, and we have links there. We'll put a new link out this week, and just donate. $5 would be great.
$5, it goes 100% of your donation goes to American Cancer Society. If you don't know much about ACS, they are one of the top rated charities in the country. Like I said, 100% of what you donate goes to ACS. They will do anything from cancer research. They're one of the leading researcher organizations. They will help people who if they need lodging during the cancer treatment. Like I've got a friend who needed lodging. They were able to be over at the Hope Lodge. They will provide transportation to and from appointments. They do education online or in person. There's so much good work that they do, and cancer is such a terrible thing that has affected so many people. So yeah, $5, skip a coffee, drop it in for American Cancer Society, and we're going to have a lot of fun activities and stuff to help us raise the funds for this. So, stay tuned and we'll be having some fun stuff. But in the meantime, make a difference in somebody's life. Make a difference today.
Awesome. Yep. And we are so excited to be participating with Team Determination to make that happen. It's a great community. As Val and I have been welcomed into that community, I really appreciate it. And my goal is I'm going to kind of like Andy in The Office. I'm just going to run right behind Tracy so I can take advantage of him. The draft, Now,
I am Baymax. I am not fast.
That's
faster than me.
Yeah, I was going to say, listen, you're talking to a tortoise.
I'm going to be
right
all
here.
over the place. I'm going to be like, ooh. So you guys are going to be going forward, and I'm going to be like serpentine.
That's
time.
What helps. That's what makes the Disney races great.
Yeah,
is that you have so much to be distracted by.
I literally have been training. Like, I've been trying to get through, like when I go to the gym, just 20 minutes without thinking about, is it time yet?
Yeah.
Is it 20 minutes? Because it's all a mind game.
It is a mental
and
thing.
I can't get there. So I'm trying to put together a playlist. And I have to say the Foo Fighters is doing it for me. I have a mixture of right now the Foo Fighters.
Yes.
I have the Foo Fighters. I have some of the into the Spider-Verse. I have just trying to keep my pace and keep my brain on it. But I know that all those shiny things at Disneyland is what's gonna keep me moving forward, because I'm just not a runner. But then I think to myself, what kept my mom moving forward when she was going through treatment?
Wow.
That's on my mind. And then this week, yesterday, I went to the gym and I looked off to my right, and there's a guy that's probably 80 years old. And he was over in the section where you can kind of be by yourself. And he's got one of those blocks and he's jumping up on the block.
Oh, wow.
I don't even jump up on the block.
No.
And I'm looking over at him, and then he caught my eye, and I was just like, yeah, man, you rock.
You're rocking it.
I can keep going 5 more minutes. I can, this guy's jumping on the thing. I'm not even jumping on the thing. So yeah. So we can do it. It's just not something that we naturally do. Tracy thinks we're going to be addicted.
Yeah. One of my favorites is when I was doing one race, there was a lady whose the back of her shirt said, "I'm 8 months pregnant and I'm still beating you." And I was like,
yeah, good job. Did you give her some tots that you had in your pocket so she could have a little snack?
Right. But yeah, you're going to be if the route holds to what they've done before, You're going to start off in the downtown Disney area. You're going to go up and around, and you're going to enter through Cars Land and seeing the Cars Land arch lit up, and it'll still be dark. It's just so cool. And then like they have you know how at the end of World of Color, they have the fountains that are just kind of like at the low level, but it has all the colors. That'll be running. The Ferris wheel's going. The Mickey, I can't remember what they renamed it, the Mickey Tune Around or Pal Around or something. Anyway.
Yeah, the Pixar Pal Around.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. So, that'll be lit up. You get to, then the cast members are going to be cheering and clapping for you.
And then when we're done, we'll run right over to the Indiana Jones ride.
100%.
Yeah. Which is what we're talking about. This is Indiana June. We're kicking off. Go ahead, Tracy.
Jake's got Indiana Jones right in the background there.
I do. He's right over.
No, other way.
Other way.
Other hand.
You're right. There it is. There he is. There he is.
Yeah.
I bought that at Disneyland in the bazaar that's right across from the Indiana Jones ride. They had it. It was a park exclusive at the time. The giant Indiana Jones Funko Pop.
I like that one.
Nice,
I'm jealous of that one. Yeah.
So my parents actually got it for me while we were there, because I was on the fence whether or not to get it, and then they just bought it for me. So it was nice.
That's
nice
gesture right there. Yeah.
So
if you didn't catch our Patreon episode of Little Mermaid, make sure you go and do that. And you can catch that. And if
we had some opinions,
we did.
Yeah, and I'm bringing that up because last week I was told that like I'm really easy on movies and it doesn't seem like I have like an opinion. And so this week last week with Little Mermaid, I had a lot of opinions and I had to talk about it a lot. And I don't know that I know how to shut my opinion button off. This is a thing, and I tried to explain it on my YouTube page, is that ABC4, like Good Things Utah, is not where I'm bringing huge opinions.
Right.
I have 5 minutes.
Right.
And I'm telling people
you're talking about 3 movies.
Sometimes 5 in 5 minutes. And so really, I know that the people that are tuning in there, they don't really care about all this other stuff. They want to know, is it worth my time and money? Because time and money is precious. Should I run out this weekend to see it? Or should I wait for $5 Tuesday, or should I wait for streaming? So I don't really give a whole lot. And if the movie's under like a B and there's 5 movies to talk about, I'm going to talk about the good ones. I'm going to leave the C, Ds, and Fs off for my website, right? And then when we come here, I try not to get too political or in deep in things that aren't specifically movie related, because I feel like that takes us off track. But I'm gonna try and be more vocally opinionated in a movie manner.
Well,
we'll see how it goes.
Tell you what,
I have opinions.
I was going to say, for those of you, Tracy and I, we get to see Val behind the scenes. Just buckle up. Buckle up, Buttercup, because here it comes.
So Val, this person that was criticizing you, that kind of
was a few people.
Okay, so that makes me think of, we talked about this, I think, during the Fast X, but the end tag for the Barbie movie trailer, where Ryan Gosling's like, I need to talk to a doctor. I am a doctor, a male doctor. I kind of feel sometimes like that with you, unfortunately. I feel like they're like, well, you're not a real movie critic because you're a woman. And
I haven't gotten that for a while, but I used to get that a lot. But I think also I get that I don't feel like a real movie critic because I don't tear movies and filmmakers and actors down. And mainly it's because that doesn't make me feel good. I don't like to do that really about anything. I'm going to get real for a minute because we're still in our 15-minute rant. But I started going back to therapy. And last week when I went to therapy, my therapist said, like, what do you get angry about? I'm like, I don't get angry. Like, I get frustrated. I get disappointed. I can get upset, but like, I don't hate anything really. Like, I don't usually use the word hate. I don't hate people. There are some people that I should hate. And I don't really get angry. I get kind of upset and frustrated. And he's like, well, maybe you should get angry. When people make me feel like I'm to the point where I'm super angry, I sometimes I cry because I don't want to feel that way about people. I don't want to hate anyone. I don't want to be angry, but I do get frustrated and I do get disappointed. And so when people are like, well, it feels like you're just too soft on these movies. Well, the thing is I became a film critic because I love film.
Yes.
I love what movies do to people and situations, and I love the way they make me feel, whether they make me feel sad or they make me feel scared or they make me feel happy. I just love it. So even the worst movies ever, I can find at least one good thing about almost any movie. Now there are a few that it's just nothing.
Minotaur. Nope.
But most movies, 90% of movies that I see, I can find at least one good thing about the movie, even if I don't like the movie. And that's just the kind of critic I am. And I feel like that's how we kind of are across the board here is we talk about movies. We put this together because we want to share our love for movies with you. And we want you to share your love of the movies with us. Even if we don't agree, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, and we've done a pretty good job of picking movies that at least some of us really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's rare that we come across something that we all disliked. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just don't air those episodes.
Yeah. When we've done it, the episode has been no good. Like we talk about the missing Ready Player One episode. And we joke about it, but guys, we promise it's not a great episode. Like you're not missing out because
it's not controversial. It's not us like ripping it apart. It's just us like,
we didn't really care for it. And
like,
because we don't like ripping it apart, we're just like, we just didn't like it. Oh,
well, and it's
okay. All of us didn't like it. Well, that's kind of it.
It's easy to rip apart a filmmaker that is not good, but when you have somebody of Spielberg's caliber, you're like,
it hurts my feelings. He's the reason I went to film school. Like, and guess what we're gonna do for this movie?
Well, okay, so it's Indiana June, and this is our first episode of the month, and we are talking about Temple of Doom. Now, if you're wondering why we're starting with Temple of Doom instead of going in chronological order, it's because we did Raiders of the Lost Ark. That was episode number 2 of Movies That Make Us.
I thought it was number 1, but it's number 2.
So number one. Number 1, we did an introduction. This is why we love movies.
Okay.
This is why we're doing this.
So it was our first movie,
It was our first movie that we covered was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
So we're huge fans.
And it was probably our first AAA. I haven't listened to it, but I can't imagine we gave it.
Anything less than an A.
But we love Raiders of the Lost Ark. We love Indiana Jones. We love Steven Spielberg. And so we're going to talk about Temple of Doom. And because we've done Raiders of the Lost Ark, we'll try to repackage it in one of the weeks in June. We'll have a video episode up and things like that. But and we'll cover The Last Crusade this month and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. All leading up to the very end of the month is when
the 30th is when the new movie comes out. So we'll cover that the first episode of July.
Yeah. And hopefully this all ends up being a preview of what you can get if we have a panel at FanX this fall, because that's what we submitted, is to talk about Indiana Jones on the big screen. Yeah. So
this is a movie that was so, and just talking about Raiders real quick, like I remember going to the video store with my mom and just seeing the cover, and it had him coming down the rope and the pillars, the snake pillars, and I was like, oh, okay, this looks cool. And we took it home and I watched it and I fell completely in love with this movie, with this world, with this character. And this was back in the day where you couldn't buy the movie. It was like $100 on VHS. And so we happened to have 2 VCRs and we happened to have some blank tapes, and we just managed to somehow.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. We never did anything like that at my house.
We taped it off of the television.
Which also still is illegal.
But listen, man, if you are telling me you grew up in the 80s, and your movie collection didn't consist of a bunch of recorded video cassettes that were handwritten what the title was,
we had
and you had 3 movies
on one.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you didn't do that, did you really live? I mean, honestly,
my mom would always do these on EP so you could fit like 4 movies on one tape, and the quality was terrible, but we didn't care because we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Now you look at like the 4K resolution and you're like, wow, that VHS tape, that was really crappy. But I wore out that video cassette, and I actually wanted to be an archaeologist because of this movie. And then when I found
So
out
did
archaeology,
Dave.
when I learned that archaeology was like taking a toothbrush and just gently brushing away sand from a rock, I was like, but what about the treasure and the adventure and the...
You and Dave and his best friend Ryan need to get together, because that's what they wanted to be when they were younger. And then when they found out that there was like, it wasn't about killing Nazis,
Yeah,
then they were like, well, wait, because we want to go kill Nazis.
yeah, the Nazi thing wasn't on my agenda. I wanted to like find the gold.
But you're not Dave,
find
so.
the treasure. Yeah.
Again, killing Nazis, we've talked about this before. That is a great agenda to have, by the way. Stopping them, punching them in the face, whatever you want to do. Anyway.
But I think we all felt like that.
Yeah, Indiana Jones is a big reason why I studied history. I didn't want to do archaeology. I didn't want to be out in the field, but it is what taught me that there's fascinating stories and histories throughout the world, and made me curious to learn more about it. And that's why I ended up getting a degree in history, is because of Indiana Jones initially.
Well, and the Indiana Jones movies are the reason why we love so many other movies that came out after it. Like, I don't think I would have loved Stargate as much as I did if it wasn't for Indiana Jones. I don't think I would have loved National Treasure as much as I did if I didn't love Indiana Jones. I don't think I would have loved Fast 10 as much as I did if I...
No, listen, there's a lot of similarities. That rolling boulder, just light that thing on fire. It could be a bomb going to the Vatican. I mean,
I'm like, this is a cross between The Dark Knight Rises and Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's
So, speaking of Indiana Jones, there is locally here in the West Valley, Taylorsville area, there's going to be an Ark of the Covenant and a tabernacle that's going to be traveling around, and people can go see it. And it's got volunteers that are talking about it and whatever. And so our local church group is possibly going to be involved with volunteers. And they were talking about it in our class. And one of the young men in my class was like, careful though, guys, if you open that up, it will turn you into liquid. And I said, okay, well, not everything you see in the movies is historically accurate.
But
and
don't open
especially
it.
in
Don't
those
touch
movies,
it.
but let's not risk it. We don't want to risk it.
As an adult figure, I can't condone what you just said. But as a fan of the movie,
I respect it. Yeah. For me, this was like, I think it was, I was going to judge the Catholic high school, and I think it was my first year there. So it was 9th grade. And it was my first time going to like a Halloween party that wasn't like a kid Halloween party. Right. And so I'm like, I gotta really like wear something really cool. I dressed as Indiana Jones.
Nice.
Do you know what no one else was dressed as, especially females?
Indiana Jones?
Yeah, because I was fully covered. I had my khakis, I had my Indiana Jones hat, I had my whip, I had my jacket, like all of it. And I walked in there, and I was not a sexy kitten. I was not a sexy Indiana Jones. I was like, I was to the T on the screen Indiana Jones, except for like the scruffle. That came a couple of years later. I didn't quite have the Italian shadow yet.
I don't know how dressing as Indiana Jones can be anything but sexy. I don't care what.
That's what I thought, because to me, I thought from the beginning that Indiana Jones was sexy. And I still think Indiana Jones is sexy. And in the new movie, he takes his shirt off, and some British lady was like, I'll have to post this interview. But she's like, you take your shirt off in the movie, you know, how like your body looked amazing. And he was like, it's like I was blessed.
He's like, she's like, I'm incredibly, what was it? I'm incredibly in love with your body or something like that.
Like, I was blessed with this body. And then he looks over, and thank you.
Yeah. But in this one, Temple of Doom, he really brings it, because he goes sleeveless and like unbuttoned, because it's like super hot and humid and I mean, like,
he's not only smart, but he also could admit when he's afraid of something.
Yeah.
So you are smart, you are hot, you are vulnerable. Like, this is what needs to happen in the world.
Well, and it's what makes him such an interesting character, especially for the time, because so many of these masculine heroes of the time don't admit that they're scared of anything. I mean,
Right.
Arnold, he wasn't afraid of
No.
anything, and and that's his character that he plays in every movie. It's just
Yeah.
Arnold.
It's Vin
And
Diesel too. Yeah.
yeah, and
But
Vin's
he
not gonna
admitted
admit-
that he was afraid in this last movie. He's afraid
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
losing
but it
his
took 10
kid.
movies to get there.
12 steps for some people, man. Like,
Yeah.
give him a break. Give him a freaking break.
so
he got
he's
there.
ahead of the
he
game.
got there.
He's ahead of the game. He's got 2 more movies to go. But yeah, I've always loved Indiana Jones. This particular one, Temple of Doom, is an interesting one for me,
Yeah.
because it was not one that I grew up watching. So I grew up watching Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade,
Yep.
and my parents didn't really want us watching Temple of Doom because it was too scary, it was too over the top, it was satanic, because there was a cult where people are ripping each other's hearts out. I don't know. So I got introduced to this one a lot later, and for me, I think that was a big reason why it doesn't resonate with me as well as the others. I'm a big believer in what makes Indy is when he's fighting against Nazis, and if he's not fighting against Nazis, I'm probably not as interested.
Yeah.
Communist kind of works, but Nazis really works well.
Yeah.
For
So-
me, I grew up with all of them. Like, we would watch them over and over. But this one, when I was younger, there were elements of it that I really liked. I love that there was a kid my age
Yeah.
in it, because I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there doing that. But what I didn't love about this movie was the female character, which also hurts my feelings because she's a great actress and it's Steven Spielberg's wife. So I should just love it because I love him. But
this
her
character-
representation of, I wanted to be there, and I'm like,
Especially-
I would be there, and I wouldn't act that stupid. Like, I
Es-
was so angry.
Especially coming off of Marion
Yes.
after Raiders, who was
Yeah.
such a
Yes.
strong,
So
independent
strong.
female.
I mean, she
But-
has her annoying moments, but so does everyone in all the
Sure,
movies.
sure.
But specific
This is
character,
just
I
the
know what they
damsel
were
in
going
distress.
for. Yeah, I know, I get it. I know what they were going for, but it annoys the crap out of me. And so therefore, like, when I went to watch this movie the other day, I turned it on and I think I got like 10 minutes in. I'm like, I know enough. Like, I've seen this movie enough, and I just couldn't watch it. It's not my favorite.
Yeah. Well, so I remember when this came out, it was 84. I was 9, and I was, like I said, all in on Indiana Jones. I had only seen this was before we had a lot of internet reviews and early word and screenings and all of that. So I had seen a few commercials on TV. Mostly it was, I had seen the poster for Temple of Doom in the theater when we saw a different movie. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to see this. And my mom had heard that it was very dark and violent. And so she was kind of, I don't know. And this is such a bizarre memory for me, but I remember being outside playing in the backyard, and we had a set of railroad ties out there, wooden railroad ties, and I fell on it, and I got like this massive sliver in my knee, and it hurt so bad, and my dad's trying to get it out, and I'm just screaming and crying. And so they said, if you let us get this out and you're good, then we'll take you to go see the movie. And I'm like, okay. When the movie came out, and I remember all the critics were like, this is not necessarily a kid's movie. My parents were like, we're not going to take you to see it in the theater. And I was just devastated. I was heartbroken. I'm like, but I was so brave when you were taking this piece of wood out, and now I don't get to see it. But looking back, I think it was the right call.
Yeah.
I mean, that for like, not that I was like, I wasn't really exposed to a lot of darker movies, but that one, like when I first saw Batman Returns, I was like, well, that was dark. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching The Godfather at 6, so like I was fine.
Well,
for me.
that's your Italian heritage.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Because every
That was
Italian.
awful.
We have offended Italian Americans on
You're
so
welcome.
many levels with that, Tracy. Like, we should really.
I have been permanently banned from traveling to Italy because of that.
No,
I just got
no,
notice on my
that's
phone. They kicked me out.
Strike
But
3.
this is interesting because this was the film. It came out. It was PG because at the time there was PG.
There
and
was no
R.
PG-13.
There
Yeah.
was no PG-13, and because there was such an uproar with this movie, it ended up becoming PG-13.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's a lot of elements here with like the chilled monkey brains and the a lot of bugs, and there's just, and the ripping of the heart. There's just a lot of dark in this. I think it's probably the darkest. Well, no, I'd say it is the darkest Indiana Jones film.
It is, and it's a direction that they kind of didn't go after this one. You know, it was because at this point you did Raiders, and you can go completely different with Temple of Doom, and they did, and then they said, let's go back to what worked in Raiders, and Last Crusade kind of bookends that really well. But yeah, the PG-13 thing is always interesting because this is always tied to that. Whenever we talk about it, I immediately go there, that this was the movie that led to the PG-13 rating existing, because it was one where I think this, along with others, but this is the most notable one that people are like, this really needs to not be PG, but it's not quite R.
Right.
And so then we get the PG-13 rating with Red Dawn and others that followed. So, which is interesting.
I don't, again, me saying that it's my least favorite Indiana Jones movie, it doesn't mean that I hate this film.
Right.
Like, my least favorite Indiana Jones movie is still better than most other movies that are out there. There is still a lot to be liked about this film. There are so many great action sequences in this film. The
whole plane sequence is
the plane great. is great. And when we talked about, if you tune into our Patreon episode of Little Mermaid, we talk a little bit and I think we've talked about this subject before, is when you make a movie dark, not storyline dark, but visually dark. You have to be afraid. And I think with this movie, it's still smart of what they did in almost all the Indiana Jones movies, is the tone of the coloring that they use when they go dark is not necessarily blacks on blacks, it's browns on browns. So when you're not in that big theater experience, you're still seeing shadows of things, you're still seeing different. And so
they also have a lot of pop of color in this one too. There's a lot of red, there's a lot of yellow.
There's a lot of red in this movie.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, when I say it's my least favorite, I mean, a bad Indiana Jones movie is still pretty good. You know, I still enjoy it. I've seen it multiple times now. And when I watch an Indiana Jones marathon, this is still one that I watch. There's not any of them that I skip. And so, I still enjoy it quite a bit. And it still feels like an Indiana Jones movie. I mean, it still has all the beats, all the, Indy, like Indiana Jones is typically like accidentally successful on his missions or whatever he's doing. Like, he's successful despite the fact that everything has gone wrong and he's kind of fumbled everything, but he kind of just keeps going, and that's what leads to a success. And you get that in Temple of Doom as well. He's not the guy that always does the right thing and comes out looking amazing. He's the guy that everything goes wrong, he's barely hanging on, and somehow it all works out.
Manages to get it. Yeah.
Well,
and it's really fun. This was back in the day when we used to have physical media, but on the 3-pack disc, this was before Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, but on the 3 DVD, I think it was the first Blu-ray release of this, they have a really interesting segment where Ben Burtt talks about doing the sound design for these movies. And one of my favorites is the minecart chase. And he was like, how do we make this a minecart chase? What are we going to do? How are we going to create these sounds? And he was like, I've got it. And they got permission and they went to Disneyland, and overnight they rode like all the roller coaster rides while hanging out the side of a car with a microphone on a boom mic, capturing the sounds of these metal cars going down metal tracks. And so he's like, we rode Space Mountain and the Matterhorn and Big Thunder, and we rode all these rides and then mixed that into the soundtrack of that. And he was like, it was
that job. I want that job. Well, and the minecart scene is one of my favorite scenes in all of the movies. It's like in my top 5 favorite scenes.
It's so well edited. That is a really, really well edited sequence. Yeah.
And it's been like other movies have tried to recreate that same feeling from that scene, not as successful.
Yep.
Sorry, what were you going to say, Jake?
Oh, I was just going to mention that I hope they had the lights on when they were riding Space Mountain, because I'm picturing like hanging out
boom
with a
mic,
boom mic, and like you can't really see what's coming next, and
you're just like, well, lost that one.
Yeah.
The budget for mics just went through the roof on.
Yeah. Like, we could turn the lights on if you want us to. No, we want the
Nope, we
authentic
want the full
experience.
experience.
Um, one of the things about this movie too that's very 80s
Uh-huh.
is the whole thing with the kids, right? They kidnap the kids and the kids are in danger, and like that was such a 1980s thing when you would watch these movies and you felt like the kids were actually in danger. Like, it's no wonder that my parents were like, if you go somewhere, call us when you get there, and like
I always thought I was going to be kidnapped as a child because so many movies were
Max
about
Beyond
kids.
Thunderdome.
Yeah, like everybody was being kidnapped or running away or joining some kind of weird thing. Like, it was all about kids leaving home, whether they wanted to or not.
Yeah. Like going exploring. You didn't go exploring. I mean, people did, but like if you went like the Goonies, you knew you were going to run into like evil criminals that were going to try to kill you, because that's what happened all the time in the movies. Kids were always in danger.
Yeah. And in the 80s, I feel like they really were. There was a lot of bad things happening in the 80s.
Yeah. That's true.
I've been watching a lot of documentaries lately.
You mean it wasn't all just bubblegum pop and going to the mall and wearing neon?
No.
I do feel like the ride at Disneyland takes a lot from this movie.
It does.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of this movie in that one.
Yeah, there is. And that's the thing is this movie has done so much to kind of create the mystique and the I don't know, look and feel of Indiana Jones that people think of as Indiana Jones. Like, it's weird to me because when I think of Indiana Jones, I think of Europe, I think of Middle East, I think of the Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark, which have a very different feel than this movie. But when you go to Disneyland, you go to the Temple of the Forbidden Eye, it is 100% Temple of Doom.
The outside is the jungle from South America from Raiders.
Yeah.
The interior of the actual ride is more of the Temple of Doom. Yeah.
Now, Tracy, have you been on the other Indiana Jones ride?
I went on the one in Paris.
Yeah.
It's not really themed a whole lot. Like, it's like basically themed, but it's not like as interactive as Disneyland. It's more like it's a Wild Mouse type coaster. But you do have an inversion. You do go upside down.
I heard about that. I just wasn't sure how it was themed because that's the only other park that has one, right?
Yeah. There's an Indiana Jones stunt show at Walt Disney World,
but not a ride.
Not a ride. Yeah. But it's like it's an open air coaster. It's not enclosed. It's not like in a space. It has like rock outcroppings and there's like treasure chests and a few things, but it's not incredibly themed.
See, and this is where if I'm going on a themed ride, I prefer more the dark ride experience than a roller coaster, because that sounds like it's a fun ride, but it just sounds like it's a fun roller coaster.
Yeah.
And Universal does that a lot. But
in Walt Disney World, they have a ride that's very similar to Indiana Jones, but it's a dinosaur ride. And you're going back in time to try and save a dinosaur before the extinction.
It's the same mechanics and stuff. It's
But I like Indiana Jones the ride better than the dinosaur ride.
Yeah. Well, because it's Indiana Jones. I mean, dinosaurs are great.
Yeah.
But I mean,
when are we going to get the Indiana Jones dinosaur movie?
It's called Jurassic Park.
But Indiana Jones
Grant
isn't in it.
Dr. Grant is Indiana Jones in Jurassic Park.
So I
no, you're not buying it. Okay.
Also, I have a sleeping pug right down here, so if you hear snoring, it's not me.
Got it. I just assumed it was our listeners there. Just kidding. You guys would never do that to us. You love our show.
They pause it and take a nap and come back.
Yeah.
Encouraging. Let's keep going.
I was just going to say though, I think Harrison Ford sometimes gets forgotten. We forget how good of an actor he is at times. Like, because I don't know. There's just, you kind of get the idea that he's just this kind of gruff guy. But I mean, you look at his body of work and he's done stuff like Presumed Innocent, The Mosquito Coast. He's fantastic in. And then recently with Shrinking on Apple TV, like this guy is so good. And I think sometimes we just forget, like he's so good that it's like so effortless that you don't think of him when you think of great actors.
I
And
think
he
that's
really-
I think maybe general public, but in my eye, he's always been like one of the greats. And the reason why I think that is because not only does my dad think that and I think that, but my daughter thinks that.
yeah.
So when my daughter was growing up and I was trying to test out all of the nerd fandoms on her, like she was not into Star Wars. And as much as I love Star Wars, the original movies are not ones that I can watch over and over and over and over again. But Indiana Jones movies, I
Mhm.
can watch over and over and over again. And one of her favorite movies that wasn't an animated movie growing up was The Last Crusade. And we
Mhm.
watched that movie so much together. And then when I took her to Force Awakens, which was the first Star Wars movie she'd seen in the theater, she was
Mhm.
like, I didn't know that Indiana Jones was in Star Wars. And I was like, oh, I've done a bad thing as a parent. Like I was like, so first of all, Han Solo is in Indiana Jones. If
Yeah,
we're gonna go,
that's the order it
like,
goes
this is the order it
chronologically.
goes in.
Yeah.
But I'm okay that she loves it because he is such a great actor, but he also, this character is so universal and
Uh-huh.
so fun
Yeah.
loved.
Mhm.
When now that she's 21, almost 22, and she was going over all of her crushes that she has, like Harrison Ford and Pedro Pascal are her two main crushes.
Yeah,
Like,
I like
what does that, you know what I mean?
I like that.
And
She's got good taste.
I'm not mad at it, you
No.
know. I mean,
Uh-uh.
the Indiana Jones that she has a crush on, you know, was in his mid 30s, early 40s, Pedro Pascal too. And I'm like, you're 21 and your crushes are 45. But then I think back at my time, yeah, mine too. Like, because
Uh-huh.
that's
Yeah.
like these characters that we had, Indiana Jones and James
Mhm.
Bond, and like
Mhm.
they were these smart, fun characters. And I do think that this movie, Temple of Doom, they do kind of bring in a little more James Bond-esque character into Indiana Jones in a
Mhm.
little darker story.
Yeah.
Where you
Yeah.
don't see that in the other ones. Like he you know,
Yeah.
you have him in this nice suit at the
which is
beginning,
really
where you
funny.
usually only see him in his
Yeah, he's
in his
hardly ever
teacher
dressed
stuff,
up.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's quite funny to have a movie which is darker than the previous movie where people's faces literally melted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah, but nobody had their heart ripped out of their chest, all right? That
And still beating.
yeah.
But the funny thing about this is, like, none of these movies as a kid scared me. And other
Mhm.
things did, but I was so it was so exciting.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to see what Indy was going to do next.
Yeah.
That I didn't, like, I wasn't phased by the things I was supposed to be afraid of. And then I watched them later and I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
I should have been.
why I just I wasn't registering, that wasn't real to me. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so
The-
I wasn't registering that.
The
Right.
movie
Whereas like
itself,
Thriller scared the crap out of me.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Vincent Price's narration.
the movie itself isn't actually that scary. Like, it's got some moments. It's got, like, I do think as a 9-year-old not going to see it in the theater is probably the right choice, but it's not like overly, but it
It's-
fell victim because of the time that it came out to the whole
Uh-huh.
satanic panic thing that was
Mhm.
going on. And
We
that
talked
was
about
why
that
my
with Dungeons
parents,
and
like,
Dragons.
no, it's got the occult, it's got a, satanic rituals. You're not going to
Mhm.
go, you're not allowed to see it. And then I watched it later. I'm like, none of this has anything to do with that at
See.
all. And so, but that was
That was the thing.
the thing that
Mhm.
that scared a lot
Play
of
that
parents off in the
Metallica song
80s.
backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Stairway to heaven. That's all. No, it's not.
My
Anyway.
mom was really worried. My mom wasn't a big satanic fear person, but she was nervous when I brought home the Rush cassette of Roll the Bones because it had the kid kicking the skull.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know. And I'm like trying to tell her, no, this guy like reads Plato on a bus while they're traveling. This is not
Yeah.
an
Listen,
evil rock band.
Let me play Roll the Bones for you, Mom. You'll be fine. Like, the song itself, I promise. There's
Yeah.
nothing dark or like
Mm-mm.
menacing about Rush at all.
No.
They just want to look cool, Mom. That's
Just-
it.
They wore kimonos on stage at one point, Mom. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
I don't know, men in kimonos.
Yeah. But there was a lot of that in that time
Yes.
frame. And I think this, because
Very
it
much
had the
so.
look of that and everything
Mhm.
else there, that was the big reason. I know it was the big reason my parents wouldn't let me watch it as a kid.
Yeah.
And then I remember and it's so weird how that sticks with you too, because I remember being a young adult and finally watching it, getting probably one of those sets that had all of the movies in it. And I remember watching it and I felt guilty for watching it because it had been so not allowed at my house.
Yeah, yeah.
And then finishing it and thinking, my parents didn't see this at all. Obviously, they made a decision based on rumors
and like I said, back in the 80s, like you had like one movie critic that wrote for the local paper.
Yeah.
Maybe you had somebody on the radio. Like we had Doug Wright on KSL. You know,
he's
you had
retiring.
I know he's hanging it up.
I do like though
Crazy.
now that we've gotten to go to some of these screenings, occasionally when you run into Doug, and especially when you're like, this is not a Doug Wright movie. This is not a movie that he is going to
sat
enjoy.
next to him in a movie that like I felt a little uncomfortable because I was like, this I feel weird sitting next to you in this, because he's so great.
Yeah.
And it's been like really just kind of out of this world, kind of being in the same company as him, you know? But yeah, it's like, you know, there's certain movies sitting next to certain people that you know that's not their thing. And you're like, this is like, you know, watching a really romantic movie with my grandparents.
Right. You're like, this is just not right.
Yeah.
He's off here.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the time, like I said, you had like one movie critic for the paper. You maybe had one for the radio. That was it. We didn't have trailers online. You had TV commercials and you had movie posters, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so then when people start talking, and it's the game of telephone. Well, I heard this. Well, I heard this. And it becomes this much bigger than it really is. It's this evil, satanic, it's horrible, it's scary, it's dark, it's, you know, and it's like, I mean, yeah, they rip the heart out of their chest, but a lot of it's implied through editing.
It is.
Like, and you don't have the special effect. You didn't have the CGI ability to actually do that. You know?
And when you watch it now, it's so exaggerated. It's almost campy. I mean, it's not campy, but it is over the top where you're not supposed to take it seriously.
Right.
Like, this is a big, bad, menacing guy, but he's just like so big and bad and menacing that it's almost camp. And it works in the Indiana Jones setting because there is a lot of camp that goes into Indiana Jones that makes it so delicious. But it really isn't scary at that point. It's more just, obviously this isn't real, and obviously they're not trying to condone this or promote it. It's just the movie.
But I heard from Aunt Susan, who heard it from her friend Betty, who heard it from so and so, and by the time
this movie is too woke and you shouldn't go see it.
Yep.
Sorry.
It's promoting child trafficking.
Yes.
And Satanism.
Yes, child trafficking and Satanism. And but
which it's not promote. Both of those things are seen as bad in this movie. Like the cult is
they're
bad.
not promoting it at all.
And the human trafficking bad. He's trying to stop it and save the kids.
I have to
Snakes bad.
100%. And now, biblically speaking, that's very against Satan, really, when you think about it. Biblically speaking, snakes bad. There's
an agenda here. And it's anti-Satanism.
You know what? I am so glad that we've had this conversation, because I was not aware of what was happening. And now I have done my own research, and I appreciate that.
Yep. I've done my own research by listening to someone on the internet. So I'm good to go. Good to go. GTG.
I got to say, though, as much as like there are some scenes that just don't work for me, like the dinner scene, I could totally do without. The whole like reaching in the hand into the wall with the bugs and stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay. But there are some scenes that are so great. Like we talked the minecart sequence, but that sequence, and even the club scene is really good. But the sequence where they're in the airplane and then they fall out of the airplane in the life raft, and talk about being over the top, but you totally go with it. Like there is no way
that's totally Fast and Furious.
No way that you're going to survive that. But
yeah,
I'm okay with that. And then you land on the mountaintop and you're skiing down the mountain in the tube.
It's so romancing the stone.
It absolutely is. It's that 1930s serial pulpy action piece, but it's so well filmed and so well edited. It's great.
I just thought of cereal and orange juice, and I'm like, what is he talking? Oh, I went a different way with that. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
It's breakfast time.
You getting hangry?
Yep.
No, I'm just hungry.
Okay, just hungry.
Um,
And the other thing that I thought was so great was this last year, and I always have such a problem saying his name. Short round.
yeah.
Mhm.
Ki Kwan.
Thank you. I'm
Ki
like
Kwan.
I embarrassed all the Italians earlier. I don't want to upset anybody else, but he said when all the award season started and he was getting all this attention for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and he's at an award ceremony and he's backstage and he sees Harrison Ford, and he said my first inclination was to run up to him and say hello, but he said I don't know if he's going to remember me. I was just a little kid and I didn't want to come across as like some fan who managed to get backstage without the pass. So he's like, I kind of hung back. And then Indiana Jones Harrison Ford walked up to him and he was like, short round. He's like, Andy. And they hugged. And it was just such a feel good story. Like, I love
that this whole year, the magic of Ki Kwan and his success and everything, that his comeback and all of that.
Mhm.
I mean, it's the feel good story of the year. I don't care. It's been amazing and awesome to watch. And those interactions that he's had between him and Harrison Ford, it's great. Like,
just
he was so good in this movie and he was so good in Goonies, and you know, like so many child actors, it's kind of, you get out of that phase and all of a sudden there's not work for you. And especially for those that are, you know, Hollywood seems to have the one or two Asian actors that they go to, the one or two
The
Hispanic actors that they
representation
go,
isn't there.
yeah. And so that makes it even more difficult to kind of build that career. And so to see his success, it has been awesome. And I hope he sticks around for a long time because he is so much fun. Whenever he
He's going
wins
to
an
be in a
award,
new series with Michelle Yeoh. So
yes,
yeah,
on
Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk
yeah,
about it.
they were
awesome
together
series.
at D23 on stage for a minute, which was really cool to see.
Yeah.
And they had that moment, and Harrison Ford is just, he's so emotional about this character, you know, because like, and he's been so many great characters. I mean, he's been Indiana Jones and Han Solo. You know what I mean? Like, he's a part of two of the biggest fandoms.
He was the president of the
all
United
time.
States.
Yes, I mean, that's an okay fandom. But like,
Listen,
these
after the
two,
last couple of election cycles, anybody could be president of the United States. So
but no, I just love that he is truly grateful for what these roles have done for him, and that we as fans have stuck by him through this, in the fact that he can stand up and say that he's proud of the last movie that he's going to be in. And there have been script after script after script, and he didn't want to make them, and he picked this one because it was the best one. And so to see him like give himself 100% to this character and really stick by and stay true to what he thinks the character should be like, that's also says something about it.
When he got the standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival, like, he teared up and he was like, I really appreciate. And he comes across as this gruff, mean, grumpy guy. And there's part of him that is that, but he's a very, I like the fact that Harrison Ford knows who he is. He loves his privacy. I mean, he moved into Idaho or Montana. Lives his own life, does his own thing, shows up, makes the movie, and goes back to his life, you know.
I think we know a different person, because I've never seen him as this grumpy old guy. He's, every time I see him in an interview, he's being silly. Like, he's just a silly
guy. There's a lot of that, but there's kind of this, like, and Jason Segel, when they were doing Shrinking, talked about this. He's like, there's this presence about him. You just assume that he's going to be unapproachable, and in fact, he's the
unapproachable.
opposite.
I see.
I think he just comes across, despite the massive fame that he has, he'd much rather just be in his cabin or flying a plane, or and I think people equate that to a gruffness or an unapproachability, but he really just
he's
being a celebrity is not the be all end all for him.
Right.
Yeah, he's never been the guy that runs out to the limelight, and he's always been the person that just says what needs to be said and moves on. And so I think because he is just who he is,
Yeah.
then people are like, well, he's not, I don't see him everywhere and I don't see this and that and the other, but he just wants to make movies and then live his life. And
He
so for
doesn't do a lot
me,
of talk shows. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. And when he does, he usually he says it's exactly what you said, Val. He says what he says. He doesn't elaborate. He doesn't have these big, long,
he's not an embellisher.
It's a very,
he reminds me of my dad very much. And so maybe that's why I'm just so used to, like, I know who he, like, I feel like they're similar. When my dad was younger, if you took when my dad was younger and when he was younger, they look very similar. And then what my dad looks like now and when he looks very similar, but in the middle years, they definitely did not look like each other, but they very similar personalities. So I think that's another reason why I feel like I kind of know him and I'm okay with that just short, sweet, and to the point kind of thing.
And I think the other thing, the reason I think he kind of gets that reputation for kind of the gruffness and whatnot, he's not like Mark Hamill, who has gone to fan conventions, and like Harrison Ford's not interested in that kind of malarkey. No. He's just not interested at all. And so I think fans then take it as, oh, he's not interested in interacting with the fans, or he's not. He's totally grateful for everything. Not
into that type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And to continue the Rush reference real quick, Jake, he kind of reminds me of like a Neil Peart, where he just wants his privacy. He doesn't want people to be like, oh my gosh, you're a superstar. You're Harrison Ford. You're Indiana Jones. He's like, I'm just me. I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
I just happen to make a living beating the drums. That was Neil Peart. Like, this is just what I do to make a living. Yeah. And it's hard, I think, when you're in a group, like when you have someone like a Mark Hamill who's interacting with everybody on Twitter, who goes to all of those things. And so you're associated with him in that way, that people kind of have that expectation that somehow shows. Like that. And it's just different. It's just a different privacy level. And I think if I were ever super famous, you know, because we're definitely on track for that. But I think I would want to be more like Harrison Ford and just like, I'll come and do the job and I'm grateful for everything. But then I want to live out in the middle of the woods where no one can see me so that I can have my privacy and because I need that time. I'm very introverted naturally. Yeah. And I think that doesn't mean that you aren't good at being an actor or good at being whatever.
Yeah.
So everybody's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
should we grade?
Yeah.
Val, let's start with you.
This is a B for me. It's fun. It's good. It's not, I don't love the female representation in this movie because it kind of broke my heart as a kid. It kind of gets me back and forth because I loved the opening scene of like the performance and the glitz and that's a pretty dress and like that, like the dancer in me, like really loved all of that. But then when she started talking, I just like
her screams just,
and I get it. Like I get what they were trying to do. It just wasn't my favorite female representation out of all of the movies. This character, but I loved the story. I loved the action sequences. I thought bringing in Short Round was such a good, smart thing to do, especially in their darkest movie, to have that kind of juxtaposition was really fun. And it's so memorable. Like there's so many things, like we said, from this movie that are the reason why people love Indiana Jones. It's just not my favorite Indiana Jones movie. So it's a B for me.
Okay. I'm gonna go B-.
Okay.
And it's the only reason it's not a C+ or a C is because it's Indiana Jones and it's Steven Spielberg. And
I almost went B-, but I thought I was gonna get in trouble.
No, come on. This is a safe space. But
not outside the space.
No, I still enjoy it. It's still an Indiana Jones movie, and like I said, if I'm doing a marathon, this still gets played, and I still watch it. It's very watchable. It's very enjoyable. It's just not my Indiana Jones jam. So it's a B- for me.
Yeah. I'm going to go B- as well. And I think if I remember correctly, this is when Spielberg was going through his divorce. So that kind of feels like that might be why
that makes sense.
Darker. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's the real case. But I'm with you, Jake. If it wasn't Indiana Jones, this would probably be like a C-level movie for me. The set pieces are fantastic, like I talked about.
Yeah.
The opening scene in the club is great. The airplane going down, that whole fight, the raft going down the mountain is great. The minecart chase is fantastic. Even the cutting of the rope bridge. There's some iconic set pieces, but overall,
the action is what gets me through it.
Kate Capshaw's screaming in this I have such a hard time with, because it's like nails on a chalkboard, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
To me, the Indiana Jones films are kind of like the opposite of Star Trek, where the even numbers are good in Star Trek, the odd ones are good with Indy. And so I'm hoping that Dial of Destiny continues that trend, because Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a weaker of the batch, but
we are going to have an interesting conversation, I think, when it comes to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
It's been, I haven't seen it in years, so I'm interested to go back and revisit and see if I feel better. But
I'll watch that one over Temple of Doom.
I like the first half of that movie. The first half worked really well for me. It's when they got to the jungle that it just lost its way.
Was it the 7 different accents? Oh wait, we'll wait for the we'll wait till we talk about the movie.
Yeah, I was okay with the nuking of the fridge even. So
yeah. But I am really excited because we are going to talk about Last Crusade, which is not just one of my favorite Indiana Jones movies, but one of my favorite movies, period.
Yep.
So, and I am so excited for the end of the month to see the Dial of Destiny, the latest Indiana Jones movie. And we are always excited to see Val on Good Things Utah. But for that one, we'll get to see Tracy on Good Things Utah.
Tracy's standing in for me. I will be out of town.
So yeah, we'll talk about that one on air,
and hopefully we'll have some tickets to give away. I'm working on it, so hopefully some of you will get to go see the movie before everyone else.
Hopefully you might even get some swag. Sometimes you get really cool swag.
Yeah, sometimes I do. We will see.
We'll see. Disney usually is pretty good about promoting with swag. Yeah,
it just depends on if I'm as important as I need to be to get it.
I hear you.
Yeah.
We've got some good things coming up this month as well. If you guys haven't joined our Patreon, please do that, because we'll have Across the Spider-Verse is going to be on our Patreon. The Flash movie is going to be on our Patreon. And I think we're going to have opinions on both of those. Good or bad, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
The more listeners we get, the more viewers we get on our YouTube, the more stuff we get to give away. So tell a friend about our podcast and subscribe, because then we get more tickets. It's not just a pair of tickets to give away. We could get 6 to 12 pairs of tickets to get away. Plus then we start getting swag. We get them for every movie and not just 5 movies. So
you got really good swag for Fast X. Like you had hats, you had posters, you had keychains, all sorts of stuff.
And I mean, that's because I have also Good Things Utah behind me. So for that one, it was what to see with Val. But the more that we get to do here really determines on you. So if you keep listening and if you share and have other people listen in, then that means you actually get more stuff, because then we have more stuff to give away. And then when we do our awesome events to raise money for cancer, that's where we bring all of that extra swag. Believe me, I kept some Fast X stuff to bring to that. That's where I bring all the movie stuff that I get that I haven't given away online. And then you have a chance to get it there as well. So subscribe, share, like, do all the things, we get our numbers up, and then we get more stuff to give away.
So there you go. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you viewing. Please share, subscribe, follow, do all the things. And if you can, support us as we raise money to fight against cancer with the American Cancer Society as we get ready for our 10K run. We really appreciate any support we can get there as well. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you when we see you?
See you when we see you? Yeah, sure. Maybe it'll be at the movies. Maybe it won't.
You never know.
We need to figure that out.
You never know with us. Yeah, we'll get it figured out.
This has been an Age of Geek media production.